is Friday. It is 5 o'clock, and want to thank everyone for joining in right now to a D Styles channel. This is Maestro A. Those of you who know me know me by the name of Amílcar, and you know it's a pleasure to be on. I'm here live from the Bronx, New York. You can actually see what it looks like right outside right now here in the Bronx in the Leave It in the Ring East studios. It is dead out there. Nothing but snow. No cars, not a lot of traffic, not a lot of people outside. Perfect time to do a show on boxing. And I do this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on my channel. You can look up, it's Maestro A, Maestroa. All right, you type in boxing, you'll see me come up, like and subscribe if you like what you hear, if you like to talk today. And I'd like everyone that's here listening in live to call in if you want. The number is 347-460. All right, 1773. Once again, that's 347-460-1773. And yeah, I mean, the topic today is a pretty simple one, and it's about Canelo. All right. You know, I really don't know what this guy has to do, because at every turn, it's Canelo's literally not the legit guy that I think most of the hardcore heads, most of the objective fans in boxing know that he is. You know, I'm going to put my cards right out there on the table. At the beginning, I was actually a little bit of a Canelo critic. I never disliked the dude. I've always liked his style. I love the fact that he took on challenges very early on in his career. The biggest one, obviously, was the Floyd Mayweather Jr. fight. But he's done nothing but take on top opponents. My criticisms early were just about, you know, some of his fights. One of them obviously was a Lara fight. I remember I was in Puerto Rico watching it, and almost everyone that was there, including myself, thought that Lara won that fight. Others have talked about the Trout fight. But I'll be honest, since he's moved up to 160, Canelo's been nothing but 5-star. He had that close fight, obviously, with Triple G that was a draw. After that fight, people said, hey, you know, he didn't stand there. He didn't trade with him. Guess what? He shows up, Canelo Triple G2, stands and trades. Fights the fight that Triple G asked him to fight. And then what? Criticism. All right. He moves up. All right. After the Triple G rematch, what does he do? He takes on Fielding. Criticism. Granted, he wasn't the best 168 pounder at the time, but he still moved up in weight and destroyed a guy that was a title holder. Faced criticism. Took on Jacobs. Won that, clearly in my eyes. Criticism. Right? Then stepped up in weight. 175. Took on Kovalev. Criticism, okay? Then before the last fight, I think most people were giving Callum Smith the credit that Callum Smith deserved. This guy was a 168 pounder. Most had him at number one, all right? Most felt that he was the top dog. He had won the World Boxing Super Series, had unified titles. And then what? All of a sudden, after Canelo beats him, now we're hearing the dude couldn't punch, right? Now, you know, people are saying, you know, you can see it right up there if you live with me on YouTube here, that Smith is his biggest challenge. Honestly, I just don't get it. And honestly, as someone who used to be a critic, I felt that it was a critic for obviously legit reasons, objective reasons. But what does Canelo have to do to prove himself as what he is? And what I think he is, and I don't really talk pound for pound very often, but to me, Canelo is the number one fighter pound for pound. Now, all the detractors, people that don't have him up there as one of the best pure boxers in the sport, seriously, what does he have to do to get that credit, right? Because time after time, he beats his opponents, right? And I get it. Certain people don't like the fact that he's winning the way he's winning, right? And this, for whatever reason, has not convinced people about who Canelo is, about what Canelo's capable of his stature in the sport. But he's proven himself to be a very good defensive fighter. He's proven himself to be a very good offensive fighter. He's proven himself to be able to go toe-to-toe. He's proven himself to be able to box, right? But I got one message for people that seem to have a constant problem with Canelo and his wins. Don't cry, man. All right? Don't cry. Hold those tears. Because literally you're talking about a guy that we're going to be speaking to our grandkids about. All right. So once again, all of the Canelo detractors out there, all of these dudes out there that seem to have a problem with Canelo's wins, with the way he fights, all right, with his opposition. All right, I'm sorry. All right, but that's what you got to do. You got to hide those tears. You got to hold on to those tears. All right. I don't want to hear any more of it. All right, I really don't. All right, and you know, I've even getting into debates with people recently, telling me obviously that Canelo isn't the best 168 pounder. Well, if he's not the best 168 pounder, please tell me who the fuck is the best 168 pounder. All right. Okay, Duval Grind saying he's going to call in to tell me what he has to do. Okay, hold that, please, bro, for 5:15. All right, we almost there. All right, we're almost there. So look, Canelo, if I'm going to put up his best win so far, all right, and people are free to disagree with me, let me get through this, all right, and then you can. All right, we got number 1, Callum Smith. All right. 2, I got to give it to him. He moved up to 175. He took on Kovalev. All right. That was a big win. All right. 3, Gennady Golovkin. All right. He went toe-to-toe with the dude. People said he couldn't go toe-to-toe with Golovkin. He did. He standing there. He traded with him. He had Golovkin backing up. Probably the only person that had him backing up before the Derevyanchenko fight. All right. 4, I'll give it Jacobs. All right, and again, I'm only talking about 160 up because I think that's all that's relevant when it comes to the 168-pound division. I'm not going to talk about guys he took on at 154 or below, right? 2, I still have Callum Smith as my number 2. All right? Who do I have as his top 4 wins? I got George Grove, Hassan Endam-Jikam. I've got John Ryder. I thought John Ryder's proven himself to be solid. And believe it or not, Rocky Fielding. All right? It was Smith that took his O. Rocky Fielding was rated. If you follow boxing, he was rated before that happened and even afterwards, right? 3, believe it or not, and I know this is going to be controversial, but this is just based on track record and who they fought. I got Saunders. Why? Because he's beaten Andy Lee, Chris Eubanks Jr., David Lemieux, and again, John Ryder. All right? Now, believe it or not, this is who I've got after them. And the only reason Benavidez is lower than I think a lot of people would probably have him is because A, he lost his title at the scales, all right, and B, the strength of competition. So I got Anthony Durrell, solid dude. All right, I've got Angulo number 2, I've got Gavril number 3, and I've got Porky Medina number 4. All right, and again, people are free to disagree with that. And then next, I've got Durrell. All right, I've got Bika number 1, Yildirim number 2, Rubio and Truax. I'm not gonna front here. I honestly couldn't choose between these two, so I got them both listed as his 3rd best win. I don't know if Truax is better than Rubio or vice versa. All right, and I think I'm being generous here with Caleb Plant. Don't have anything against Caleb Plant, but if you look at his strength of competition. Right? He's got Uzcategui. And after that, really, what is it? He's got Truax and he's got Medina. And 4, please fill in the blank. All right? Please fill in the blank. All right. And I know that there's some Plant fans out there. And I was kind of going back with a couple of them on Twitter. All right. I got a message for you. All right, so look, I think we got a couple guys that said they wanted to call in, at least one. So if Duval Grind MMA, call in if you want to chop it up and give your opinion on this. But to me, Canelo's the top dog, man. All right, he's the top dog at 168. And if anyone doesn't agree with that, I'd literally like to hear why, and I'd also like to hear what he has to do. All right. What up, area code 904? Is this Duval?
This is Duval Grind.
How's it going, Duval? Thanks for calling in.
Gotcha.
What you got to say, man?
Man, ain't much really to say, bro. At this point, bro, Canelo will never get the credit he deserves. He's never going to get the credit he deserves. He's the face of boxing. He's the golden boy right now. He at this point, he's going to have to kill somebody in the ring to get the credit he deserves. And even then, he's not going to get that credit. He might have to move up to fight Deontay Wilder or something like that. Canelo will never get credit.
You know, I got to agree with you. And what's crazy too is we're talking about a situation I think is kind of unique in the history of boxing, right? We're talking about the biggest earner in the sport, right? And we're talking about obviously the one of the biggest attraction too. And it's weird that I'm actually making the case that this guy's being underrated. You know, it's a weird situation to be in terms of making an argument, but I legit feel that the man is being underrated. And it's like every time he beats somebody after the victory, people come out and say that the guy he beat was not that great. Case in point, Smith. How do you rate? Actually, how do you? Sorry, go ahead, Duval.
Well, I was going to say a lot of the people that are hating on him are the same people that think that you know that that the Charlo brothers and the Boo Boo Andrade would beat him. And I'm like, you guys not even making a conscious effort to actually get Canelo in the ring.
Seriously, seriously.
Because I think Calix Boxing, he talked about you know these guys that are PBC fighters that they fight on Fox, but they want Canelo to sacrifice money and everything to sign with PBC to fight for the belts when he's the cash cow. You can't be making any demands on him. That's like telling Floyd Mayweather he has to go sign with, Showtime to fight. Shoot.
Name anybody. Name anybody. Right? It's equivalent of Andre Berto having contractual demands before Mayweather's last fight, before the obviously McGregor fight. But no, I mean, the other thing with Canelo is he's legit willing to take on anybody. He does not run from opponents. I think he's willing to take on anybody from 160 to 165. That's 168. You know, people are actually calling for him to take on Beterbiev. It's like, why? Why does a guy that started at 154 have to prove himself against a killer at 175? So let me ask.
Hey, who knows? He might sign to fight. He might sign to fight Tyson Fury, kind of like Ryan Garcia moving up in weight to fight Manny Pacquiao, and they will still say, it's not enough of a challenge.
Right. No Powell here in the chat has a good point. He says that WADA, the World Anti-Doping Association, changed the rule because they decided that the amount of clenbuterol that was in Canelo's system is clearly from eating meat. This is true. Right. And now you hear even people saying, well, Kovalev's test is no different than Canelo's test. It absolutely is different because there was a track record there of people eating contaminated meat and testing positive. So let me ask you something before I let you go, Duval.
D-Style Boxing knows about that because in 2009, the Mexican national team, when they were getting ready for the Gold Cup, were also suspended because they ate contaminated meat and tested positive. So it's not like it's just Canelo that it just happened to. It's the thing in Mexico. It's the thing that's happened in Mexico before.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you, how do you rate? Give me your top three, or you can even give me more, but give me your top three 168 pounders.
Canelo, Calvin Smith. Isn't Daniel Jacobs at 168 right now?
Yeah, he is.
I mean, it's a toss-up between him and Billy Joe Saunders, but
it's tough after 1 and 2, isn't it?
No, well, the thing is that you can't even put Caleb Plant in there because again you don't know where he's at. He hasn't fought anybody in most of his fights. He kind of pulled a Devin Haney where it's like, dude, you're fighting a guy who is past his prime, not showing you anything, and you don't even threaten to finish him.
Absolutely. And look again, right? I'm going to bring it up again here on the screen, right? It's like, who really are his top wins? We've got Uzcategui. You can disagree with this order, but Uzcategui, Truax, and Medina, I think are his top 3 wins. I literally can't even name a fourth that I'd put on the list and feel confident about. So I'll ask you, like, how do you rank the next 3 here? Do you agree? Do you disagree?
Outside of the 3 I gave you, I can't really give you anything. Maybe Benavidez if he gets his shit together because he messed up with his weight cut.
Right, but look. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I can't put Caleb Plant up there. I can't put him up there. Like, there's no real way to put him up there in the top 5.
I agree with you. And honestly, based on his record, I think I was being generous because I could have easily put Daniel Jacobs up on this list next to Durrell. I think. All right, Durrell.
Actually, I do have a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead,
maybe
bro.
in the chat they can answer this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because, you know, Daniel Jacobs fought, and it was a close fight against, you know, Gabriel Rosado. Would you put Gabriel Rosado above Caleb Plant?
Ooh. That's actually a good question. You know what?
Would you put Gabriel Rosado over Caleb Plant? Because Gabriel Rosado has a track record of fighting top fighters, just that, you know, he gets cut easily and it messes him up in the fights and everything. It's not like he's never competitive.
No, you're absolutely right. You could easily make an argument for that. And look, I'm going to just say it right here. I put Plant up on this table just to show his record.
Comparison.
Yeah, I'm not convinced he's number 6. I'm really not. You know, the reason I have Benavidez ahead of Durrell, I think Durrell actually has a better record, but I got Benavidez up there because he beat Durrell, you know, legitimately.
That's understandable.
Right? But yeah, there's a few guys that you could put up there and substitute Plant for. So there you go, man. Look, thank you for calling in, bro, and I hope you call in again because I'll be doing this Monday, Wednesday, Fridays.
I got you. By the way, message out there, Jake Paul is soft for taking a fight with an MMA fighter with no hands.
Oh, shit, I got to look into that. I don't really know much about that story, but thanks.
I got you.
All right, man. You take care. Thanks again. Yeah, man. So, look, he had a good question. You know, do you put Plant up on this list? Again, I think Plant has skills. You know, I like his jab, but is he better than these other dudes? I don't really know. Looks like D-Style's on the line. D-Style, what's good, bro?
What's going on, Amílcar? How's it going, man?
All good, man. Thanks for having me on your channel. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought I'd call into my own channel, but here I am, man. But it's your show. Good stuff. Did you really put a question mark on number 4 for Plant?
I did. I put a question mark because I was researching for this show. The other guys, I literally did it off the top of my head, right? I got to 3 on Caleb Plant, and then I had to go to BoxRec. And when I went to BoxRec, I literally did not feel like I could put any of the other opponents onto this list.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I thought you asked BoxRec, and BoxRec was like, huh? I don't know. Yeah, man. Let me tell you something, man. Very, very, very simple. And it's honestly mind-boggling to me how the boxing fans enable these other fighters to just wait around for the payday rather than challenge them, okay, and pressure them to fight each other, to build a resume themselves. You know, it seems like everyone excuses everything all the other fighters in and around Canelo's weight class do, right? Like they seem to like just excuse these guys when it's something we don't really do in other weight classes. Like no one tells the other guy they don't do anything until this guy fights you. That's just not the way it works. You know, like how does one guy fight a champion and they honestly believe, well, if I just trash the guy he beat and make it seem like he's a bum, come up with terms like Euro bum, then I don't have to give him credit for anything. I can make it seem like Canelo is the one not doing anything. We literally have individuals out here claiming, all right, that that Canelo is like ducking Plant. When like he's already offered to fight him twice. And to be honest with you, Amílcar, if that was Plant in December and not Smith, I guarantee you the narrative would be, oh, he ducked the real champion, Smith, and he beat up an unproven guy like Plant. I mean, look, who's he beat? He hadn't beat anybody. But that's basically what they would be saying right now. Plant would have been a nobody. He would have been some white hope hype or something like that. And that's how I feel about it. You know what I mean?
No, you're absolutely right. And look, when he took on one Rocky Fielding right here in New York at the Garden, the complaint was he wasn't taking on the best 168 pounder in the world. Granted, he wasn't. Yeah. You know, he was dipping his toes in at 168, probably getting a feel for his body at that weight class. I felt he did really, really well because I actually think that despite what other people think, Rocky Fielding's not a bad fighter, right? But he wasn't the best at 168. We know that. But then when he took on the best at 168, he didn't get credit for it. You remember the week of the fight, D-Style, when that whole face-off was taking place, when they were both facing off against each other and they were wearing the masks? I think it was on the roof of a building. And you could just see how much physically bigger Callum Smith was than Canelo, right?
Right.
He didn't get credit. Absolutely. I mean, he took on a guy who was 6'4" almost, who can really punch. Right? People are now saying that he can't punch. He can absolutely punch, and he can definitely punch harder than Plant, which a lot of people seem to be giving a lot of credit to as a 168 pounder, especially before this last fight. Canelo has not gotten the credit I think he deserves for the field. It's not for the fielding, for the Callum Smith fight. So, D, what do you think Canelo's got to do, or is there anything that he can do to kind of change this narrative?
Well, right now, he's saying he wants to become undisputed. That's the start. You know what I mean? I can't. To answer your question, there's nothing he can do to spin the narratives because they have to have an anti-Canelo agenda. It's the way it is, no matter what, you know. But in order to appease at least me, the guys who love boxing history and want him to be up there with the greats and stuff like that, you know, going undisputed would be a big deal. You know, becoming undisputed champion and at 160 pounds, which we're just not used to seeing Mexican fighters in that high of a weight class, especially becoming undisputed. That would be a hell of an accomplishment. You know, so I think that's what I would like to see Canelo do, and he's on his way there. He's already halfway there, like in one fight. You know, so the way I see it. But here's what I want to tell you, man. You know, as far as Canelo goes, you know, there's always room to criticize any fighter, but the problem is that the narratives against Canelo are so extreme. They're so far out there that it doesn't even leave room for any reasonable criticism, you know, because of how extreme a lot of these, you know, criticisms are of Canelo. That's what I'll say.
No, I agree. And look, I turned to when I really started to realize it, D-Style, was after this Callum Smith win, right? I mean, he just took on a guy who was, like I said, I think he's the number one guy after Canelo in the weight. Dangerous dude, tall, heavy puncher, takes him on, beats him. And then there's complaints about the fact that he's going to be fighting 2 months later, not 6 months later, not 5 months later, 2 months later against Yildirim, who's a tough dude. He showed that against Durrell in his fight, right? He's taking on Yildirim 2 months later, and then he's going to be taking on another guy again in May. And I'm like, wow, people are actually complaining about this? This is the...
You know what kills me? This is what kills me. I criticize his level of opposition, and then they come back and they tell me. And they think they got me. Like, that's the funny part. They're like, hey, Batista, Caleb Plant, he pitched a shutout. What else do you want from him? Well, how about stop pitching to the minor league baseball player? How about, okay, you take on the big-ass slugger in the major leagues. His name's Canelo. Okay, he didn't call him out, bro. He didn't even say, I want Saul Canelo Alvarez, okay, when he was being interviewed after the fight. He couldn't even say that out of his mouth, all right? I don't want him to pitch shutouts in the minor leagues with old, washed-up, you know, boxers that aren't, you know, in the majors anymore. I want to see him, okay, he's literally like he fought a Subway guy. I mean, talk about, that's not even minor league. That's like the softball league. You know what I mean? When the Subway guys and the McDonald's guys, you know, they play softball at the park or something. No. That's not who I want you to pitch against, bro. I don't want you to pitch a shutout against those guys. Go and challenge yourself against that slugger who's hitting home run after home run right now. His name is Saul Canelo Alvarez, right? They're walking him, bro. That's all they're doing. They're walking the guy. They don't want to get in the ring with him. They just want to keep walking him. But you got to get in the ring with him. That's all I got to say, man. Good show, brother.
All right, thank you, D-Style. Appreciate it. That was the one and only D-Style, who I'm very happy has allowed me to host my show this Monday, YouTube exclusive on his channel. Look, one thing that D-Style and me, we have in common, we kind of grew up in the same era, right? Born in the 80s, started watching boxing, or really getting into it in the 90s. And, you know, it takes me back to the Roy Jones era, right? When Roy Jones had that exclusive HBO contract and was pretty much just fighting mandatories and cherry picking, you know, guys that he could knock out after putting both of his hands behind his back. There were, you know, cab drivers, you know, school teachers like me, police officers. You know, it was ridiculous, right? He brought a sanitation worker all the way out from Australia to knock him out. And I don't even think Roy got this amount of shade that Alvarez is getting. You know, I understood some of the criticism early on. I really did. I really got the criticism after the Lara fight. I felt Lara won that fight, okay? I kind of got the criticism a little bit after the Trout fight, but that to me was more of it could go either way fight. But I'm telling you, since he stepped up to 160 pounds, I do not think that the criticism that this man has been getting is warranted. Area code 510. What's up, bro? You're speaking to Emil.
Hey, Amílcar, Fernando, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah, Fernando. What's going on, bro?
Oh, got off work, homie. Trying to make that cheddar out here, you know?
I hear you, man. You got to make that feria.
Got to pay for the next fucking PBC pay-per-view, $80, you know? Gotta get that money.
Yeah.
Me personally, like, I know I've been seeing everybody talking about Canelo. I mean, everything, like, as far as the media and a lot of the fans, is reflected in the light of what's going on with Triple G, right? Like they're like tied together at the waist, you know. And like for instance, one of the main gripes against Canelo is that he waited out Triple G till he got old, right? But you know what people don't understand is that Triple G and Kelly Pavlik were born days apart. They're almost exactly the same age, and what that tells me is that Canelo wasn't supposed to be Triple G's generation of fighters. Triple G was supposed to be fighting the likes of Jermaine Taylor, Kelly Pavlik, Joe Calzaghe, Bernard Hopkins, fighters like that. And and sure, he was in Europe or he was an amateur or whatever, but it's like getting mad at Virgil Ortiz.
It's not Canelo's fault.
It's like getting mad at Virgil Ortiz today for not fighting Terrence Crawford. You know, Terrence Crawford's contemporaries are Spence and Garcia and people like that. You know, and the same thing with Canelo. Canelo's contemporaries aren't necessarily Triple G. He fought Triple G, but he wasn't waiting him out. He was doing his own career. His career developed at his own pace. You know, but people were so desperate to find somebody for Triple G to fight, including myself. I started off as a Triple G fan too. I bought all the hype, all the hashtags, all the belts.
Hashtag, were you all in on hashtag Mexican style?
I thought, hey, you kind of like Travis a little bit. You know, I bought the hype. I was angry too. I was angry like, oh man, Canelo's avoiding him. You know, I bought every single excuse that was being put out there by the boxing media. I believe, and they still pump it out there. You know, they still put it. Not everybody. Now everybody's kind of like, you know, warmed up to Canelo a little bit. But you don't ever hear anybody criticize Triple G, not even a little bit.
Well, let me just reinforce your point, right? In 2013, when a super young Canelo was testing himself against Floyd, right? Triple G, who's significantly older than Canelo and had more fights and more experience in him, especially if you include obviously the amateur record, he was taking on Nobuhiro Ishida. All right? That is pretty much what you were saying. I mean, his early career was Ishida, Matthew Macklin, Curtis Stevens, Asumanu, Daniel Gale, Marco Antonio Rubio, Martin Murray. Look, he's not in Canelo's league. And the fact that now, at this point in his career, he's taking on Zarameta and guys like Steve Rolls, I mean, I think it says all you need to say about Triple G. What do you got to say, bro?
I agree completely. Honestly, at this point at Triple G's career, maybe even earlier, I put him in the same category as Caleb Plant. He's just trying to. He's not going for legacy. He's going for another payday. He wants a third payday. He doesn't want revenge. Revenge is what he's selling to his fans. But as far as what he's concerned about, what he really worries about is money. He wants that third Canelo payday. That's why he's sitting on. He's doing exactly Caleb Plant's doing, fighting nobodies. You know, fighting nobody. He's been doing it for 2 years now. You know, his career should have been, like I said, fighting the likes of Kelly Pavlik, Bernard Hopkins. He even had a chance to fight Andre Ward, right? Andre Ward tried to fight him at 168 at a time when a lot of the writers were talking about how he could knock out 175-pounders, and he completely refused that fight. He wouldn't fight Andre Ward, which would have been a bigger fight than even Canelo's ever been in reality, you know, as far as legacy goes, you know, at the time. Now, I mean, Canelo's gone to the Andre Ward level, in my opinion. But a few years ago, when they first fought, Canelo was definitely not in the Andre Ward class of a fighter.
Fam, that's actually a great point.
Yeah, you know.
Because look, I mean, now people, even Mark Kriegel over at ESPN is talking about, you know, him going up to face Deverenchenko, and I've heard other people say that too. I think I heard it on the Pugmire podcast, but I mean, Triple G didn't even go up one weight class to take on Andre Ward. So absolutely, you're going to say something else?
Well, this goes back to that, right? Like you would hear, like, you know, when Triple G was first getting like all his height, you would hear like, oh, in the gyms he's knocking out 175 pounders. I think there was a story that he knocked out Kovalev in sparring or something like that, right? But there's never been any proof of it. He's never, like you said, he's never gone past 160 pounds. Never. He's never dared to even go up to a catch weight, you know, or excuse me, 168 against anybody.
No.
You know, and now even with the trilogy against Canelo, he's still refusing to go up to 168. That's like more of a pissing contest, but he doesn't even want to go up to 168 now for his biggest payday. You know, and just me personally, like I said, I started off as a big Triple G fan, and what turned me off to him was like him snitching, right, writing a letter to the Nevada Athletic Commission to suspend Canelo, saying he saw
that was a bad move.
Needle tracks on Canelo's. Remember that he said he saw needle tracks on Canelo's stomach or some other bullshit, you know?
Yeah, that was a low move.
That was a low move, dude. I mean, and you know, like, and going back to, you know, like, I don't know. I just been real disappointed with Triple G. I bought the hype. I ate it like gravy, you know? I bought both of his pay-per-views. I bought the Lemieux pay-per-view and the Dan Jacobs pay-per-view.
Wow.
You know? And, yeah.
I was actually at the Lemieux fight. But now that you mention, I got one of these for Triple G, too. I mean, he lost to Canelo. And he was a serious sore loser after it happened, you know? So, yeah, I mean, look, I never really got on the Triple G hype train. I'm more of a kind of I'd say a cynic at heart and kind of a critical person. And, you know, the talent was there, but he never really tested himself against the best, as you said, bro.
And can we get back to Caleb Plant, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
I think Caleb Plant is talented, but he's got a little bit of that Demetrius Andre mentality when it comes to fighting. Like, if you remember Andre's last fight, he could have knocked that guy out, but he didn't. He took his foot off the gas pedal and let that guy off the hook. And that's kind of what Caleb Plant does. You know, instead of going in for the kill, he kind of just, you know, happy point in point. You know, that's no way to sell a pay-per-view. You know, especially against like somebody like Caleb Truax, who basically was hoping to cash out, you know, last night or on Saturday. And now Caleb Truax, he might get another payday out of this, you know, kind of like similar to what Rosado did against Danny Jacobs. You know, he might get another payday out of just surviving 12 rounds with Caleb Plant, you know. So what I would like to see, and I know it's not going to happen, is Caleb Plant versus Benavidez. And maybe the winner of that fights Canelo. Because right now, like, I know D-Style was talking about he's excited about, at the very least, Canelo unifying all the titles at 168. But me personally, dude, if that last fight is going to be against Caleb Plant, I'm not going to give a shit if he fucking unifies all the titles. I'm not going to care. You know, I'll watch it. Hopefully it'll be on the zone, but, you know.
Well, I agree with you. And not only do I think it was a bad look for pay-per-view, I actually feel it was a bad look for Fox. I mean, that was a prime time slot, right? Sweet spot, man. It was a perfect time for me out here on the East Coast to watch boxing. It started at 6. Out there on the West, it was 3, right? It lasted into like the early night, right between the conference playoff games last week and or the week before last, and now the Super Bowl, right? On Fox, again, on network television. I cannot think of a worse PBC card that I've seen. I literally can't. And I'm including the FS2 cards. And remember when they were on Spike TV? It was really that bad. I mean, the co-feature was just ridiculous, you know. And also
It like my uncle's going at it.
No, I
mean,
mean,
my uncle's going at it in the backyard.
Right? I mean, from the opening bout on the main card to the very end, it was a very bad pay-per-view, right? It was just a really bad, especially the fight also featuring Selden's son. I mean, it was embarrassing. The idea that you'd put that on a mainstream platform like Fox in prime time and try to sell it to fans, it just was not a good look for boxing.
The PBC has always had me very confused, man. Even going back to the time at NBC also, which ended up dropping them off for similar tactics. Lance Pugmire today was reporting that their Fox contract is up this year, so they're up for renewal. They're hoping, right? But this is no way to go about it. I think, honestly, it feels like they're just cashing out their Fox contract, man. They're giving the paydays to their guys and moving on with it. Going completely back to Showtime.
Yeah,
like you said,
they would have been better.
Man.
Yeah, go ahead.
Also, well, they got a $90 million yearly contract. That's what's been reported. They have a $90 million per year contract with Fox. Where is that money going? Where is it going? It's unbelievable.
They would have been better off, and I was saying this during the telecast, to give it to the little guys. It would have been a better move, I think, had they put on the Fulton Jr. card on Fox. Because that was a good card top to bottom. All the fights were exciting, competitive matchups. That's the kind of look that you want to put in, not the shit that they showed us. Anyways, thanks for calling in, bro. I got I think one other person that wants to get online, bro. But let's do this again, man. I'm here. I'm gonna be doing this Monday, Wednesday, Friday on my channel. Good looks to D-Style for hosting the show today. All right, thank you, bro.
I appreciate it, Amílcar.
Yo, absolutely, fam. Yeah, so I mean, he brings up a really good point, and as I was saying, the lines are open again. 347-460-1773. Again, it's 347-460-1773. I think that he brought up a really good point. I mean, that's not the look you want to give, and yeah, maybe there is a little bit of the Demetrius Andrade. Sorry, I can't call him Andrade. Andrade kind of lack to ability to want to, not even ability, but mentality to want to kind of finish a guy. Eric code 260. What up, bro? Who is this?
All right. Name's Big Brian.
How's it going, Big Brian?
Going good, man. Going good.
Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, I had some thoughts. Or is this just anything in particular?
Anything you want to talk about, bro. Floor is yours.
Yeah, man. Yeah, with Caleb Plant and Canelo Alvarez. I mean, that fight that happened this past weekend. I mean, Caleb Plant looked good, but at the same time, when you step up and fight competition, Caleb Trax being a veteran that he is, you obviously can see that there's flaws, especially when you see Caleb Plant going into the later rounds, and that'd be my concern with him versus Canelo, because I think for someone to beat Canelo, they have to be a boxer type. Now, Caleb Plant has displayed that. He has a good jab, good combination punching. He has good speed. He has effective power. I wouldn't say good power, but effective power.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think he has a shot, but but when you deal with the whole card as a whole with PBC, what they showed last weekend, man, like they have no room to talk about any other promotions like Top Ranking over there in ESPN, because that card that they showed was really lackluster, and it was like, especially the heavyweight bout, man, that was a lackluster bout. Some of the undercards were lackluster. You know, I look at it like this, man. Like, you know, some of these guys that they got up in that roster don't really impress me. You know what I'm saying? And to be honest with you, they need to, you know, with their top guys, they need to go ahead and just allow these top guys to let loose and fight these other guys that are in these other promotions. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, like Matchroom, Top Rank. Go ahead.
No, I said, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, and let's be honest. There's got to be a better heavyweight that you could put in with a prospect than Rock. You know, I don't know how you felt about that fight, but like when a guy shows up, if I'm the director of an athletic commission, I'm not even allowing him to fight. Like that was ridiculous. I mean, I say this all the time. You know, I'm a phys ed teacher by trade, right? I've been remote teaching for a really long time. I have not been working out the way I used to work out, and I look like a chiseled athlete compared to that. You know, and I'm doing the bare minimum right now. The fact that a guy like that who could call himself a professional athlete is getting licensed to fight and put on national television, to me, is really, really bad.
Right. And let me hit on that point that you just said. Like, I was looking at that. I was like, man, because, you know, I'm trying to get up in, you know, professionals, trying to get up in the professional heavyweight bout. And I was looking at that and like, man, look, I know I'm 270, but I'm rock solid 270. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I can lose a little bit, like 20, 30 more pounds, but I was like, wait a second. Wait, this dude's you telling me this dude's 17-2 or whatever, 17-2. He was a top heavyweight in amateurs, and he comes out looking like that, a tub of lard, man. Like, I was like, bro, I can get up in there and whip his ass. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, like, the way that kind of display is not, you know, maybe that's why, man, the heavyweight division's been on the decline for so long. Like, you can't display a product like that and show the viewing audience. You know, a casual fan will look at that and like, well, dang, man, look at this dude. This dude look like a piece of trash, man. Like, why is this fat self up on there? Why is he up on there fighting? You know what I'm saying? That you can give that slot to a better athlete, a guy that actually takes his conditioning and the training serious.
Yeah, and
like,
I mean, so go ahead.
Look, yeah, I just want to say this. Like, even Andy Ruiz, we could tell he's out of shape, but you know, for the first, what was the second fight with Anthony Joshua, he looked real out of shape. He looked better than that dude, because that dude had like 3 layers of fat and love handles on him, man. Like that. See, and this how guys be getting killed in the ring, because you be having these box state athletic commissions, man, having these overweight, you know, sloppy, you know, out of shape cats, man, up in the ring, and they get severely injured.
That's absolutely right. No, I was just going to say you're right. I mean, there's 2 reasons not to do it. The first reason, first and foremost, is what you said, the safety consideration, right? The second thing is it's just a bad look for the sport. It's just a bad look. Another thing, too, you're talking about the guys that PBC has. I mean, you're hearing some of my New York noise behind me. Those are the snow trucks. There's a lot of snow out here right now. But the PBC has a lot of fighters on their roster, right? And they got a lot of dudes in the lower weight classes, right, that are actually hungry. Guys like Stephen Fulton Jr., guys like Rais Aleem that we just saw. Why are they not getting the exposure that those guys were getting on Saturday night? You know, I'm happy they were on Showtime, and those are just 2 of the guys. But if guys are going to show up on network TV and those are the performances that we're going to see out of them, we've got to replace them with people that are going to be putting up action fights for the fans.
Yeah, put up action fights. I mean, you can have 2 C-level guys, but take their craft serious and get up in the ring and, you know, give a good fight. Because, you know, of course, you know, boxing fans like you and me, and pretty much the majority of people that's listening right now, like we know boxing. We see boxing. We can break it down from an analytical standpoint. But when you deal with the casuals want to see a good fight. You know what I'm saying? Casuals want to be entertained. You know, this is part of this. This also entertainment, and you know, you got to be putting out the best product you possibly can. You got to put up the best fights you can. You know what I'm saying? And
Absolutely.
you know, PBC, I think just that what we saw this past weekend is a microcosm of what they put on. You know, and before, you know, and I've references before. You know, it's like this. I mean, when you have guys like Gary Russell Jr. who will come out and literally say on the air and say that, look, man, the PBC, they're not letting me fight certain guys, so they want to protect my record, or he said something along those lines, and it's like that doesn't look good. So you're willing to prop up a guy, and of course everybody goes through the process of getting built up, whether it be boxing, whether it be MMA or whatever combat sports. But dealing with boxing, of course, we do understand that guys get built up to have their record, you know, for their progression as a professional boxer, but also too to hone in their skills and also too to get some wins on their column. We understand that, but there comes a time where you have to put these guys up in the ranking system where they're ranked at in these particular sanctioning bodies, because that's the only rankings that we legitimately have right now, even though they're they're trash right now. We have to have these guys go and fight stiffer competition so that because the stiffer the competition, the more competitive the fight's going to be. And the more consistent, stiffer competition that you put your fighters on, is the better the fights are going to be, no matter what style it is.
Yeah, I agree with you.
That's what they.
So let me ask you something though, right? You started off earlier by kind of talking about Caleb Plant. So I got two questions for you. One, what do you think is preventing him from doing kind of what you alluded to wanting to see him do, which is kind of finish guys that really should not be in there for full 12 rounds with him? And then second, where do you rank him right now at 168 pounds?
All right. Good questions. What I think what it is with Caleb Plant, because some fighters, no matter how hard they train, I mean, I've seen guys like David, the guys that may have had conditioning problems later on in the fights, and they get whole training camps where, you know, they try to get their conditioning better. You know, they can get the best conditioning coaches that money can buy, and it's still going to be a problem. So I don't know if it's so much what a guy can do in the later rounds. You know, what I think with him is more putting a certain emphasis, because, you know, you don't necessarily need to be a knockout puncher or a volume puncher to put somebody away. I think Terrence Crawford shows us that he can put guys away and finish fights. You know what I'm saying? Finish them in spectacular fashion. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be a great puncher. I think the best, what it is being assertive. If you know you have a guy hurt, there is a certain element of killer instinct where you start pouring those combinations, you start utilizing head movement, you do what you need to do to put that guy away. Don't throw your best punches, be assertive, put that guy away. That's an intangible that the best fighters have. You know, we see with Canelo Alvarez, we see with Terrence Crawford. You know, we see, you know, a little bit with Errol Spence, you know, guys that can put a guy away. That's a certain intangible that certain guys have in the ring, the very best do. So what I would say is that's what his mentality needs to be going forward, because he has the tools. I looked at him going back in 2017. That's when I started watching his fights. I'm like, you know, this guy has a good jab. He got good footwork, good angles. Takes good angles. His defense is decent. You know, good combination punching. His power is effective. So he can be a real challenge to Canelo. I was thinking about this back in 2017. But I think for him to step up and actually be a legitimate, real threat of 50, even like a 30-70 threat, or a possibly 60-40 threat to Canelo, he needs to be more assertive, and he needs to, find something within him as a champion in them later rounds in a 12-round fight. Now dealing with the second question, that second question was forget.
How do I was asking?
Question,
I was asking how you rank the guys. And look, I've got the thing up on my screen here right now, and I'm sure you could see it if you're on YouTube.
yeah.
You know, I don't know if you're with us
Yeah,
at the top of the hour, but I was pretty much saying that, look, it doesn't really matter what Alvarez does. He just doesn't get the credit that I think he deserves. And you look at his top 4 opponents, and people are free to disagree with this if they want, obviously. But I've got Callum Smith, Kovalev, because it was at 175. I've got Golovkin and then Jacobs. I'm only talking about 160 up, right? If you look at strength, 160 up, because I think that's really what matters if you're ranking them at 160. I don't really want to talk about wins against guys like Khan or others, right? But I still think that based on his accomplishments against the people he's faced, that Smith is still second in the division. You look at Groves, Endam Jikam, Ryder, and Fielding. And believe it or not, I've got Saunders after him because of the Lee win, Eubank Jr., Lemieux, and Ryder. Honestly, I'm just going to skip over here so you can see it right now. I legit think that Benavidez and Durrell are both ahead of Plant, and I also think a strong argument could even be made for Daniel Jacobs to be higher ranked than him based just on strength of his opponents. What about you?
I think that's a fair assessment. I mean, I look at Canelo Alvarez, definitely he's the cream of the crop right now. And if someone has him in top pound for pound, I mean, I wouldn't argue with him. But if you're dealing with top 60 and up, he'd be the king right now. And then when you deal with the top guys, I mean, really, there will be only 2 guys. Probably Benavidez. I mean, Andre Durrell. I mean, not Andre Durrell. Anthony Durrell. I'm trying to think. Anthony Durrell. Demetrius Andrade is probably under Caleb right now. Trying to think who else will be up. Yeah, I mean, Benavidez. I think him and Billy Joe Saunders is probably in the same category right now, if you ask me.
Callum Smith, Plant and Billy Joe?
Yeah, Plant and Billy Joe probably in the same category right now. I'm trying to think. The Charlo brothers, I think the Charlo brothers I would have to say that they're probably a step above. So maybe like 3 or 4 guys above Caleb right now.
Look, I like the Charlos. Jermell hasn't moved up to 160 yet, so we can talk about Jermall. I'd like him to clean out the division at 160. I totally get it if he's not getting the fights and he feels he needs to move up. But I'd personally like to see him clear out the division at 160 because I think he can clear out the division and beat guys like Triple G, who we were talking about earlier. Me personally, I cannot put Plant in the same category as I put, believe it or not, Billy Joe Saunders because his 3rd best win was against Porky Medina, right? And
yeah, that's fair.
That's his 3rd best win. You look at Billy Joe. I mean, the guys he's taking on are at a higher level than that. I mean, he's regardless of how you feel. I mean, I think Chris Eubank Jr., Andy Lee, Lemieux, and John Ryder are higher level, more accomplished boxers than Medina, and I'd even say Truax as well.
Yeah, you're right about that because those guys are really good. I'm not gonna lie. Chris Eubank Jr. and I mean those guys are really good. I'm not gonna lie. I mean maybe I'm just looking at Plant. I mean Callum Smith, he's a tough fighter too.
Absolutely.
Not gonna knock. Oh, Andy Lee's still around?
No, I'm just I put him as Saunders' best victory. Sorry, so I've got the fighter, and then I've ranked their best wins underneath their photos.
Yeah. I mean, look, the top. Look, yeah, I guess I can't really argue with that. Maybe I'm just looking at Plant because of what I think he's capable of. You know what I'm saying? It's just. I'm going off of maybe just what I've seen recently. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah, probably the eye test too. You said it. He's got a good jab. Yeah. He boxes well behind the jab, and Look, you've got to appreciate the guy's style, at least as it relates to, I mean, for me, picking apart his opponents. But what I'd like him to see him do after he does start to land and pick them apart is to finish them.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, that's the one, and that's where that superstar intangible, comes to play in boxing. Like you say, you see it with really the greatest of greats. And right now, Canelo has shown that. I would say Canelo, he's a good puncher, right? He has a good left hook. He's an effective combination puncher, but when he wants to finish a fight, he's very capable of doing so. So
I think he's capable, but I also think he has a mentality to also go for it too.
That's the point with Caleb Plant that I think, because if he fights, let's say he fights someone like Canelo. Let's forget about Canelo Alvarez for a second. Let's say he fights David Benavidez. David Benavidez can knock you out with one punch in that division. Caleb Plant's position, you're going to have to not only box, but you're going to have to be assertive in certain elements of the fight. You know what I'm saying? In certain variables of the fight, because a puncher and a bully like David Benavidez, you have to take the fight to a guy like that in a certain way. You know what I'm saying? To take what he does best away from him. You know what I'm saying? And then be assertive. You know what I'm saying? I think that's probably where Caleb Plant is going to lack in. You know what I'm saying? And we saw that with Caleb Trax. He should have knocked Caleb Trax out. There was times in that fight where okay, yes, it's about to be over. But then you look 6th, 7th, 8th round, and this dude's slowing down. I'm like, man, this is getting a little boring. You know what I'm saying? It's getting a little lackluster. You know what I'm saying? It's supposed to be a showcase fight, and
it was getting more. I think you're being polite, bro. For me, it was getting a lot more than just a little bit boring, a little bit lackluster. Look, all respect to Caleb Truax, but to me, and people are free to disagree, he was brought in to be a stepping stone and was brought in to look good against. They said it was a mandatory challenge. I think they kind of lobbied to make it a mandatory challenge, because last time I checked, wasn't his last fight a mandatory challenge against Feigenbutz? Right? So he took on 2 back-to-back mandatories. Again, prime time spot, right? Against a 37-year-old who I think is super undersized for 168. And like you said, the openings were there. I don't know if it was an issue of conditioning or mentality, but he did not go for the KO.
No, he definitely didn't. And it just, when you coast like that, and someone before I called in brought up what's that cat's name? Was it not Anthony Durrell? I'm trying to think of the other guy who boxed kind of this pretty similar.
Oh, you're talking about Boo Boo Andrade?
Yeah, Boo Boo. Yeah, Demetrius Andrade.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's the same. You know what? And I don't even like that guy because he hasn't really fought in a long time. He barely fights, and he's the type of guy, like, when he boxes, he jabs. He's an outside boxer. Okay, that's all well and good, but you're telling me you can't go for the knockout? A guy like that, like, I don't really see him elevating himself into the top of the division, because he doesn't have that killer instinct. And I think he might have, and like the one caller said, I think he does have some forms of that kind of mentality of just kind of coasting. And, when you coast in a fight against top level fighters, when you feel like you're ahead, man, that can come back to bite you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, definitely, we can definitely look at this Julio Cesar Chavez senior fight with my man Meldrick Taylor. You know what I'm saying? Where
that's
he was
a good comparison.
Outboxed. Yeah, you getting outboxed for what? The whole, really, I had him winning the whole rounds. Coming that last round, that last 30 seconds, I mean, the dude got to him, man. And it can happen.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
It can happen, and it almost happened with his son in that 12th round against Maravilla Martinez.
Yeah, it almost did, man. And Sure. Michael Moore, George Foreman, Michael Moore, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
I mean, the other Andrade against Lucien Bute, it almost happened. There's been plenty of fights like that.
Oh, yeah.
Right? These last-second fights in boxing. But thanks for calling in, man. I'm going to see if anyone else wants to jump on. But thanks again, bro. Appreciate the call. And like I said, I'm going to be doing this Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, 5 p.m. on my channel, live at 5. So thanks for joining.
No problem, man.
All right, you take care, bro. Take care.
Yep.
Yeah, for those who kind of were not here at the beginning, I mean, this started out really as a conversation about why Canelo just does not seem to be getting the credit that I think he should be getting. And again, this is a weird thing to really be talking about with someone who is the biggest earner in the sport. I mean, maybe it's up for debate between him and Joshua. Someone who you see on people's pound for pound lists, but someone who I just think, cannot seem to do right. I think that he doesn't get credit for his boxing ability, all right, for his defense, his ability to kind of parry slip punches, his ability to get under people's jabs, people much bigger than him, all right, his ability to cut off the ring and walk people down, his ability to do things like almost at this point, one of his patented moves, which is kind of that feint and then that hook or that left uppercut. Dude's a high-level boxer, all right? He doesn't duck opposition. I was one of the people who earlier on was critical in terms of, I felt that there were fights that he kind of got the nod in that I felt could have gone to the other opponent. Mostly, for me, it's one fight. It's the Lara fight, right? But again, since he stepped up to 160 pounds, I just do not see a legit case that he has not been doing everything that needs to be done if you're Canelo Alvarez, right? He stepped up to 168. Yes, he didn't take on the best in his first fight there when he took on Rocky Fielding, but it was his first time at 168 pounds, right? He went up and knocked out Kovalev. That's something that a lot of people couldn't do, including a big guy like Anthony Yard who went out to Russia to try to do it. Canelo did that, right? And he did it in emphatic and brutal fashion, right? People said, oh, well, you didn't stand and trade in the first fight with Triple G. In the second fight, he stood there and traded. He fought exactly the fight that Triple G and his fans wanted him to fight, and he won, right? And the most disappointing thing for me, at least as somebody who observes the sport, is that after the Callum Smith fight, all of a sudden now Callum Smith, winner of the World Boxing Super Series, unified champ at 168, a guy who I felt was a beast in the division, 6'4", right? Could punch, right? Had knocked people out, had beaten everyone in front of him, right? Struggled a little bit with Ryder, but everyone has fights like that, especially if you're not really up for the opponent, right? And Canelo literally beat this guy up, beat him up, beat up a bigger man, a guy that definitely outweighed him the night of the fight, right? Took away his jab, busted up his arm, right? Busted up his face, was ripping him to the body. I don't think we've ever seen Callum Smith in that kind of condition. So, I just don't get it. And again, you're gonna see this guy doing these things, right? You're gonna see this guy knocking people out, right? And continue to win, because I look at 168 pounds, I do not see a guy that can beat him. I just don't. And for all of the people that are out there still complaining, again. All right, so I got a caller here, area code 619. What up, man? Who's calling?
What's happening? This is Mike.
How's it going, Mike?
Oh, it's going good. How you doing, fam?
Good, man. I'm just happy to be here on D Styles channel, man, talking to all his subscribers and talking about boxing.
Yeah. I'm sub. I've been sub to D for a minute. D is a cool dude.
Absolutely.
But, the way I kind of see it, is what does Canelo do next? Like, who does he fight next? I see you got Canelo, Danny Jacobs, a couple of guys on there, Callum Smith. You know what I'm saying? But that Kovalev win was just kind of a little bit iffy to me. he had a lot of things going on outside of the ring. He took the fight kind of on a short notice as well. He has a lot of stuff going on right now as well. But that's not Canelo's fault.
No, it's not.
But the way I see it is that the level of expectations as a boxing fight fan for the level of the competition that he has next doesn't look too good. As far as him wanting to fight 3 times before the year ends. The Billy Joe Sanders fight, yeah, that sounds pretty good, but what kind of Billy Joe Sanders is going to come in the ring? I'm assuming that he's going to come in better than he did his last couple of fights. We heard some of the things that Billy said in interviews and stuff like that. But then again, you can't hold that against Canelo. But the way I put it is, those are not really the big fights that I want to see Canelo have. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of people would say that as well. But the thing that's been going on in boxing.
What fights do you want to see him in against, brother?
I mean, what fights do you want to see him in? Because I'm pretty sure it's going to be about the same. The biggest fight that I can say that it'll be will be one of the Charlos.
A big fight for him would be definitely Jamal Charlo at 160. The thing, though, is that Canelo's made it clear that he wants to unify at 168, right? So unless Charlo gets a belt at 168, which I'm not saying isn't a possibility, because I actually think Charlo can beat Plant, right, if he chooses to go up. I think that would be a good fight if he wants to get to Canelo. Go up to 168, take on Plant. But Canelo's made it clear that he wants to unify at 168. So really what that leaves us right now is Plant and Billy Joe. I'd like to see a Benavidez fight. I like the way that Benavidez forces the action. I just don't know how long he's going to be standing there squared up in front of Canelo, eating body shots and uppercuts if he decides to do what he's done against guys like Durrell and stand up square and trade.
I mean, that sounds about right, but you know, money talks, man, and whether or not he can get all those fights when they can make them happen and stuff like that, and other people have mandatories and stuff like that, he's got to fight somebody in between as well.
You're talking about Canelo, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what the next fight is, right? I mean, he's taking on his WBC mandatory, and I know he's been getting shade for that, but, you know, he is fighting 2 months after he just fought, and he's already committed himself to fighting again 2 months after that, pretty much, when he fights in May, right? So I actually like the fact... Pardon me?
Fight.
Yeah, I mean, but who else is he going to fight? Plant wasn't available. Plant didn't want the smoke. Plant didn't want the smoke
because he chose to move up, right, and not make those other fights. He chose to move up, so he is stuck in his convention on being unified, undisputed right now. That's what he's doing, but he basically said, those guys are not a priority.
What you're saying is you would have wanted him to stay at 160 and fight Charlo instead of go up to 168 and fight Callum Smith. Is that what you're saying?
Kind of. No. What I'm saying is that, yeah, of course he got this mandatory to get out of the way, but they already lined it up. It seems like to where he's going to go into a Billy Joe Sanders fight.
Yeah, with the 2-fight deal with the zone, that's the way it looks, right?
Yeah, and that doesn't start me too well, but you know what I'm saying? I think Canelo's going to get rid of him. See Canelo get rid of Plant real easy.
Same.
I think so. Look who Plant fought, and you know, the guy kind of licked him a few times here and there, but
he did. And when you're watching those fights, right? At least me, I'm asking myself, what would Benavidez be doing right now? What would Durrell be doing right now? What would Canelo be doing right now? And as you pointed out, Caleb Truax was touching him every now and again. You know, a guy who's 37, pretty slow, undersized, and really should not be less than 12 rounds against the guy that considers himself to be, you know, the DMX of the 168-pound division. And I mean, when I say DMX, I'm talking about the dog.
And I'm gonna tell you something. I was watching the fight in the bar, and a 70-year-old Jamaican dude who ain't watched boxing since boxing, last heavyweight Jamaican guy came into the scene. He ain't watched boxing since then. And this dude basically said that Plant don't have killer instinct. Word for word.
I mean, that's kind of what it looked like, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I can't deny that.
I mean, for me,
I couldn't say nothing. He just looked at me, and I didn't say shit.
I mean, there's a few ways to look at it, right? You either got guys that are comfortable just winning 12-round decisions and not putting themselves at risk. You know, a lot of Cuban fighters have been accused of that, right? Then you also got guys like Joshua and Klitschko who, you know, don't empty the tank because they're afraid of gassing out and not having anything left and getting knocked out. And, you know, I don't know if it's an issue of conditioning, which is obviously the Joshua and Klitschko thing, which turns into a mentality thing, or whether it's just the style of boxing. I'd say it's more the style of boxing in Plant's case, because he does seem to be in really good shape. But I agree with you, bro. Like, you do got to get a guy like that out of there, especially when it's prime time on Fox.
I think a lot of fighters are doing exactly what you're saying, but it's more towards like they already know where they're at, conditioning wise and stuff like that, and they're sectioning off the fight to where they can last and then put it in the last quarter of the fight or whenever they can, and that doesn't always work out. And like with fighters, the good thing about some fighters is that they get up in the fight with a lot of guys that don't have the resources to top-notch trainers and conditioning coaches and stuff like that, or just lack that motivation to get out there and do those type of things, to have that type of conditioning to where when they get in the ring, they could give it they all for 12 rounds. And we just saw that with Lomachenko, how he soft shoe his way through the first half of the fight.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't want to take any risks. To me, against Teo, it just seemed like you could hear the snow trucks behind me again in a plane. I'm out here in New York City. A lot of snow here today in New York. You know, he didn't want to risk getting touched up by Teo. I think that's what happened in that fight. And he was hoping that Teo would tire out, and it just didn't happen. And yeah, it was a bad strategy. And I think he just showed that he didn't think that he could legit beat Teo doing what he normally does. So, yeah, I mean, but you wouldn't expect Plant to have that kind of attitude against a guy like Truax. I mean, Truax ain't a young, hungry lion like Teo.
Yeah, that was not a good look for both fighters at the end of that night. My main thing, I was just coming on to say, you know, I'm not a hater of Canelo. I think he's a very good fighter. I think that no matter who he fights, he has a very good chance of winning. You know what I'm saying? And some of those fights are 50-50. You know what I'm saying? Some of them are not. But
yeah,
you know, fighters like Canelo, you know, who has the opportunity really to pick and choose damn near who he wants to fight, you know, just like anybody else, I hold him to a higher standard. I heard people talking about that whack-ass card that just happened. It was. I agree with that. It was a whack ass card. Some of those guys got 12 fights. Some of those guys been around for a minute, but that's just the way it is. I just hope, these guys to a little higher of a standard when they reach that certain plateau. Because at the end of the day, we keep getting notions of people saying PBC is a cancer, top ranked this, Matchroom Boxing this. Haven't heard anything. People badmouth Solito's promotions. I think they're doing their thing, especially with the women. But at the end of the day, if we just look at boxing as a whole and where it's been progressing to or declining to, something got to give. And I think fighting for undisputed, but not fighting the right fight is not going to be a good look.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, I think it's laid out for Canelo, right? He's got this Yildirim defense that he needs to take care of. He's doing it quick, 2 months. I don't think we can complain about that. His very next fight after that should be a unification fight with Saunders. And if he beats Saunders, which I think he will, right? I actually think Saunders is the trickiest fight for him right now of the two title holders, Plant and Saunders. He makes it to a fall fight with Plant, but in the interim, I'll tell you this, I would be all in for Jamal Charlo Plant, with the winner taking on the winner of obviously Canelo and Billy Joe. I'd be happy with that.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if I put it like this, if Canelo can take that fight in between all that stuff and beat Charlo and go and do all that stuff, I mean, you can't nobody say shit. Really about pound for pound, because I treat pound for pound as not about really necessarily belts, how many belts they got, and necessarily the overall body of work the fighter has. Just about styles and who I think could beat who.
Yeah, I could see that.
You understand?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I mean, for me, pound for pound is always about, you just look at the people that are clearly the most dominant guys in a division, and you talk about who's the most dominant in a division, right? And kind of compare across divisions, as opposed to people that kind of say, well, what if Tyson Fury was 126 pounds? Who would win between him and Gary Russell Jr.? Now, that's ridiculous, right? The way I look at it is Fury's the dominant dude at heavyweight, at least to me, right? Inoue is the dominant dude at 118 pounds. Who's the most dominant out of the two? Because we're never going to get a fight between Inoue and Fury. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think he's overinflated in a way. Fury beat Wilder, so you know that right there, I got to give it to him. I just got a little hiccups with how people that were saying that Wilder can't box and can't do this, and he beats the guy, and then he gets elevated higher than Joshua. But at the end of the day, as I see it, it's a good look. Overall, it's a good look for Canelo. As a boxing fan, yeah, I'm a little not upset, but just like that's not what I want to see. But if I was Canelo, I'll probably be doing the same damn thing, because at the end of the day, everybody wants to be that top guy and wants to do their business the way they want to do it. I can't dictate it to any fighter on who they should fight next and stuff like that, because it's their career. But as a fight fan, I do have my convictions on who I want these fighters to see. And if those don't happen, then I cut off the TV, and maybe other people do that too, and then that affects their pay.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I just think that Canelo is taking on pretty much everyone that's in front of him at this point, or at least ain't running from anybody. But what's your name again, fam?
I got a channel. It's called Michael Johnson Boxing Talking More, but you can just call me Mike.
Got it, Mike. Well, thank you for chopping it up with me, bro. And I hope you subscribe to my channel and you'll come back and do another one of these lives with me.
What's your channel?
It's Maestro. I'm going to put it in the chat right now, and you can just click it and subscribe. M-A-E-R.
Yeah, get in there. I sub.
Yeah, Maestro and an A. Find me right there.
Right on.
All right. Thanks, bro.
Yay.
All right, so yeah, thanks. I think we've had a lot of good callers today and a pretty good talk about what's going on with Canelo and at the 168-pound division. And look, say what you will about Canelo. I think to me it's clear where he's at right now. He's the best 168-pounder. I don't really think that can be debated. I don't really think people could say that he's not taking on the best guys that he can. You look at his record. Right, Callum Smith was the beast at the division. Whether or not people want to reinvent and engage in revisionist history, you know, that to me he was that dude. Right, he's beating Kovalev, he's beating Golovkin, he's beating Jacobs at 160 and above. I still think Callum Smith is number 2, regardless of the fact that now people are kind of trying to redefine him and what he was and what he still is. All right, you look at the guys on his resume, they're much higher, as are the guys that Saunders has fought, than a lot of the people that there are, you know, the Canelo detractors obviously saying that Canelo's refusing to fight. So look, again, we're going to keep seeing Canelo do his thing. All right, he's going to be winning for as long as he stays at 168 pounds, I think. And to those who still have a problem with that, you know, once again, you know, you're going to be crying here for a while, because I do not see Canelo not doing his thing. So once again, you guys can still. All right, and that's going to be it, man. Special thanks to D-Style, all right, for hosting me on his channel. Again, you can catch me Monday, Wednesday, Fridays for Live at 5 here, actually on my channel, M-A, all right, ESTRO, Maestro A. All right, you can hopefully subscribe to me there. Come back, chat on my channel. All right, call in. All right, talk boxing. All right, and obviously you can do that too. Mondays, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Me and Dave Duenas, all right, are going to be on the main show on Leave It in the Ring, the Leave It in the Ring show Monday nights. Tonight we actually have Robert the Ghost Guerrero joining us for an interview, and I'm really looking forward to that. All right. Tuesdays, it's my man D-Style right here with my other main compadre, all right, G-Funky Boxing for Hispanics Causing Panic. Then on Wednesdays, head over to G-Funky's channel for HCP Uncensored, all right. Thursdays, we've got the Leave It in the Ring roundtable. You're going to see me, D-Style, G-Funky, Joe Habib, and others, all right here again on D-Style's channel. And then Sunday nights, it's Ringside Reporter with Eric Lorta and Joe Habib. And that's at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. All right, so thanks again, everyone. Please sub to my channel. Hope to see all of you again. And that's it. I'm out.